Welcome to the Agents Advisor, agentsadvisor.com. Welcome to Advisor TV and Advisor Radio, brought to you by the Agents Advisor, empowering independent insurance agents. MedPlan Network, your medical insurance partner. Benefit Resource Systems, the employer source for benefits. Benetrusts, self-funding and TPA brokers. I'm your host, Joe Morris, CEO of the Agents Advisor and MedPlan Network. I'm very pleased to be with you today on Advisor TV, Advisor Radio. Our purpose is to empower the independent insurance agent and to educate agents and advisors, consumers, businesses of their insurance and financial planning product and service options. Today's special guest is Leo LaGrotte of Life Settlement Advisors. Welcome, Leo.
Joe, thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I'm really excited about having you here. Advisor TV, Advisor Radio, we bring content and great information to independent insurance agents, financial advisors, accountants, CPAs, and attorneys that work in the insurance financial planning markets. And I'm real excited about having you here simply because how we met, and it's through social media, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we, for those viewing and listening today, Leo and I met through LinkedIn. And those that work with me know how I feel about social media, how I feel about the web and the opportunity we have to really expand our markets, our knowledge, and share and collaborate together. I had recently announced about my title change and launching the Agents Advisor and MedPlan Network, and Leo had reached out to me in the past and congratulated me, and I thought, Leo, Life Settlement Advisors, I want to check that out. So I went to your website and looked at Life Settlement Advisors, and ironically, we weren't far apart from each other, really, were we?
No. I'm in Carmel, you're in Noblesville.
Yeah, and so we're broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Noblesville in the square. That's where our corporate headquarters is at. And I had some great conversations with Leo. And to tee this up for you, those that are listening and watching, we started talking about things that happen in the life insurance space. We talked about the three things that happen. You remember that conversation?
I do.
Okay, so let's go over those three things that typically happen in a life insurance transaction and a policy delivery. What would you say?
So consequently, someone is going to buy a policy for a specific reason, and they're going to hold that policy for that specific reason. At some point, that reason may go away for whatever reason. Maybe college funding was a purpose, or maybe replacement income for a spouse, or maybe they were a business owner and they bought it for their business. But at some point, their life fast forward and the need for that coverage goes away.
Yeah.
So consequently, they have to make a decision.
Yeah. And so when we dug into that idea of it, and I thought about it, and I said, okay, you think about the three things that happen with a life insurance contract. The person pays it, they go the distance in the policy, they pass away, proceeds are paid out to a beneficiary, right?
Correct.
So the plan works as planned. They buy the policy, proceeds get paid out, it's all good. Or they have this life change, something happens, and they surrender the policy. Or, and this is what an agent really doesn't like to see, they let the policy lapse. So when I was talking to you about this, I said, okay, you look at the three things that happen. Policy pays, client surrenders it, gives up, or they just let the policy lapse. And that's not good, right, for an agent, not good for a client.
Absolutely.
And so as we were talking about this, and the reason I really think it's important to bring this up, I said to Leo, I think it's imperative that a financial advisor or a life insurance agent or an insurance agent in general, that when they're delivering that life insurance policy, they have to go and deliver the policy, get the policy delivery receipt. I think it's imperative they ought to show them the fourth option. And the fourth option is?
A life settlement.
Yes. Let's expand upon that for a second. So I'm going with my client, I'm delivering the policy, and I let them know that here's the three traditional things that happen to this. You did a good thing by doing it, but how long are you going to stick with the plan? Are you going to let the plan work? Are you going to surrender it? Are you going to let it lapse? Before you surrender it or let it lapse, I think you need to know about this. So
So a life settlement, Joe, is the sale of a life insurance contract into the secondary market. The seller will receive a lump sum payment. The policy stays enforced, the purchaser will become the owner and the beneficiary, and the agent will continue to get their renewal commission as premiums are paid.
Nice. So before we go to that, why don't you tell me who Life Settlement Advisors, who you guys are, what you guys do?
Certainly, Joe. I have been in the life settlement space for 18 years. I got involved because I saw the opportunity for seniors to sell an asset that they no longer needed. Now, an interesting statistic and an analysis was done by our trade association that states that seniors will surrender or lapse 1 million life insurance contracts this year in excess of $100 billion. So life settlement advisors back in 2000, myself, got involved for that specific reason to help seniors. So I have 18 years of experience of dealing with financial advisors on how to help their clients take that non-liquid asset and turn it into immediate cash. And with Life Settlement Advisors, we have a turnkey operation for the advisor. So the advisor can feel comfortable that they can trust a life settlement company that can help them get through that process, which in most cases they don't have a good understanding.
Mm-hmm. So what is a life settlement? What is it really?
So when you think about a life insurance policy that has been purchased by an individual, at some point they decide, I no longer want it, I no longer need it, or I no longer can afford to pay that premium. So they can sell that policy no different than a car, a home, or any other asset they own. They can, and even a term policy qualifies for a life settlement. So when you think about your life insurance today, it's an asset. It's an asset that if you pass away, you're going to get a lump sum payment for the amount of death benefit. But if you at some point decide you no longer need it, you can sell it.
Interesting. So, okay. So let me ask, we work with agents all over the country. And certainly I get connected with agents through various social medias like LinkedIn or Facebook or our YouTube channel that we have with Advisor TV. So when you think about, okay, what is a life settlement, and they're out there selling life insurance contracts today, in your view, based on your 18 years, who should be talking about life settlements?
Joe, that's a great question. Any advisor that is dealing with an insured that is a senior that has life insurance, they should be talking about, and the question they need to work into the conversation is, did you know you can sell all or a portion of your life insurance, even term insurance?
So you know a little about what we do. Our network of agents is primarily a network of agents that sell health insurance, Medicare insurance. They write final expense. They sell the ancillaries. We do have a network of property and casualty agencies, financial advisors that work with MedPlan Network. They outsource those insurance coverages to MedPlan Network. Our virtual agents will enroll their clients into a Medicare plan or Medicare Advantage or Part D. And of course, they sell final expense as well. So when you look at who our audience is, who our partners are, it's typically independent insurance agents, financial planners, and these independent insurance agents either sell Medicare products in the senior market, to your point, or they don't, and they just outsource it to MedPlan Network. We do have benefit resource systems that is basically a brokerage that sells group benefits, employee benefit plans, and so there's something to that might have a fit in as well. So if it's really the insurance agent, financial advisor, maybe an accountant or CPA, maybe it's an attorney or a law firm that's in elder law, they're all exposed to what you're talking about, right?
That is correct, Joe.
Okay.
Anyone that's dealing with the senior should be talking about life settlements, and that includes all those categories: the estate planning attorney, the CPA, the life insurance agent, the professional that's selling Medicare supplements or health insurance, or property and casualty, or the agent that is selling home, auto, life. All of those folks should be making their clients aware that a life settlement is an option for them when they no longer need that coverage.
So how does that fit into what they currently are doing? How does it fit into their normal program? How would you describe that?
Well, Joe, that's a great question. And at Life Settlement Advisors, we've built our business model around the advisor. So when I use the term advisor, I'm using it as a broad base. But let's say we're talking about a general agent, someone who sells home, auto, life insurance. They have their core product that they sell, they specialize, they're very good at. But a life settlement could be an ancillary product that they make their client available. That advisor, that general agent, does not have to become an expert in life settlements. We're the expert. The only thing that advisor, general agent, needs to do is make the client aware. If the client wants to explore a life settlement, then that's where we being the expert, will get engaged, will determine if they're a candidate for a life settlement. If they are, we're going to be an extension of their back office. We're going to do all the heavy lifting. We're going to do all the processing. The only thing the advisor, general agent in this particular example has to do is prospect, make the client aware. When they identify it, get us the specific information: age, type of policy, medical conditions. In order to begin processing a case, we need a copy of the policy, most recent annual statement, and a current illustration. Now, we also have a questionnaire that the seller of the policy needs to complete. Once we have all that information, we take over from there. The process takes 90 days. Every 2 weeks, we're going to send an email to that general agent or that advisor, giving them an update on that status of that case. So as a recap, from the general agent's perspective, the only thing they need to do is to prospect, to let their clients know, gather the policy, the current illustration, the most recent annual statement, and get us back the questionnaire. That's all they have to do, because we handle everything else.
Nice. So who is an ideal client for this? Who's the ideal client that a life settlement could be a good option for?
Joe, the ideal client is going to be a male or a female that's in their mid-60s or older. They've had a change in health since that policy was issued. Now, there might be a male or female that's in their early 60s or older. Maybe they've got a chronic illness and their life expectancy has been compressed to less than 13 years. They're going to be a candidate as well.
Okay. So what does an advisor have to do work-wise?
Very simple. An advisor, they don't have to become an expert. They don't have to really learn anything about the life settlement market, other than the fact that it's a way for a senior to liquidate a non-liquid asset.
Mm-hmm.
So the advisor is going to gather a few documents, and then they're going to read our emails on the update, on the status.
On the status reports.
And beyond that, they're going to field a few phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
If there's an offer that's accepted, then they may choose to be involved in the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be. But at the end of the day, they have very little that they have to do.
So there's no special license, certification?
No certification. You do have to have a life insurance license,
Okay.
which most all the folks that we talk to have. If we're dealing with a CPA or we're dealing with an attorney, if they don't have someone licensed in their office, it's a billable hours most often.
Okay, great. That's interesting because when you talk about the backroom support and the build out, a lot of times, in what we do, agents that choose not to sell Medicare, for example, it's because they think about, well, do I have to be certified? Well, if you're selling Medicare Advantage plans and Part D drug plans, the answer is yes. If you're selling just Medicare supplements, no. I mean, there's a couple carriers that have product certifications just to train them on the product, but beyond that, it's pretty open. So you're making this easy. The regulators have made this easy in that sense. That's good, because that means most of those that are watching or listening to this, they're ideal candidates to be able to market this to their customers or prospect new customers, right?
That is correct. And keep in mind, for agents that may do business in multiple states or have clients in multiple states, they just have to get a non-residence agent's license in order to be compensated.
So I assume after 18 years of doing this, you've got some great stories.
A number of stories that we've seen over the years.
All right, so for the sake of time, give me a best case scenario case study versus just your average everyday kind of deal, because we all hear, when every time you learn something new in our business, right, you always got that shiny penny. Somebody's got this great thing. You can make $20,000 a week working 20 hours a day, staying at home, right? Versus the reality is, get up every morning, put on nice clothes, talk to people, get out there, put yourself in your community, and don't worry about the money. The money will come if you're doing the right thing for the client, right? So if you could, we've talked about a couple cases, but give me a couple examples. Whether one's extreme, whether one's not. So my audience is going to be one side of the spectrum to the other, okay? We've got people brand new to the business. We've got people that have got a seasoned book of business and they're high-level performers with a high net worth of business that they're managing, whether managing assets or whether a big book of business. So can you give me both ends of the spectrum?
I'll give you two examples.
Okay.
I'll start out with, first off, the minimum case that we typically work on is $100,000 in death benefit. The smallest case we've done in the last year was $50,000. The numbers just happen to work. But I'll give you an example of an 80-year-old male who had a universal life insurance contract. The agent had done a 1035 exchange several years prior, but the cash was running out of this policy, and the insured no longer needed that product. So consequently, they called the agent and said, we'd like to surrender the policy and take whatever cash. And the agent said, well, let's try a life settlement. Well, what is that? They explained it. At the end of the day, the insured received a gross offer of $30,000 for that life insurance contract, and the agent took up to 30%, which they're allowed to, and they have to disclose that to the seller. But that's an example of how powerful a life settlement can be, because in that example, there was only a few $1,000s left in that
in cash
policy,
value?
in cash surrender value.
So there's only a few $1,000s left in surrender value, but because of the face amount, they were able to sell it and get 10x, is what you're telling me.
Right.
10 times.
Right. Now, part of that went to the agent.
Yeah, the agent got revenue
Right.
sharing in it, and so I got you.
So on the flip side, the opportunity for the high net worth agent that's out there dealing with high net worth individuals, the opportunities are significant. In another example of a case where a business owner who owns a $10 million term policy no longer wants it to convert it because the conversion on that policy is about to expire. So the client has a couple options. One, convert that and keep that policy, or two, surrender it and let it lapse. Well, in this particular case, the business owner decided they were not going to keep it. The advisor said, well, there may be some value in this contract. let's explore a life settlement. So at the end of the day, Joe, that policy was sold, and the insured had received a check for $3 million. That
Wow.
is significant.
So, wow.
So the advisor gets paid on the target premium
Because they converted it.
because it had to be converted. So from a financial advisor's perspective, they get paid on the conversion of that policy, and they also get paid on the life settlement transaction.
So I got
well.
a $10 million policy. They take this term policy because it's coming towards the end of the term. They convert it to a permanent policy. So there's conversion. The advisor got paid on the conversion and also got paid on the settlement.
That is correct. Absolutely. So when you stop and think about a life settlement transaction, you're talking about high to mid six figures that can be made when you've got this term policy that's going to be converted with a target premium in excess of $300,000. And then when you think about the life settlement transaction where the advisor can get paid up to 30%, now in this particular case, it's going to be negotiated down, but
Sure.
You've got to disclose that compensation. But at the end of the day, the opportunity to make mid six figures on a $10 million policy is there.
And you know, that's for the average agent, that sounds like crazy, holy cow. But for the average high net worth financial advisor, that's a commonplace, isn't it?
Well, $10 million policies are not as common as we may think, but they're out there. There are a lot of $10 million policies. But when you stop and you think about life insurance, whether it's $10 million, $7 million, or even $3 million, at the end of the day, if that policy is no longer wanted or needed, it can be sold. And that's what the life settlement marketplace brings to the consumer, because a life settlement is only for people who have made the decision, we no longer need this policy.
So when you open this segment up with me, and of course we've talked about it over the phone and other occasions, but the number that struck me was the number of policies that lapse or get surrendered in a year, and the actual death benefit, the face amount value. What is that number again?
Over 1 million life insurance policies, seniors 65 and older.
Now we're not talking under 65. We're talking about 65 years old and older. Over 1 million will either be lapsed or surrendered.
And the death benefit will be in excess of $100 billion.
100 billion with a B.
With a B.
Wow.
So consequently, for the trusted advisor, the life insurance agent, the health insurance agent, the CPA, the estate planning attorney, the financial advisor, the registered investment advisor, anyone dealing with individuals who have life insurance, they could be missing out on this opportunity.
Right. I can think of 1 million opportunities they've missed out on in a 12-month period.
Absolutely. And now keep in mind, not every senior age 65 and older is going to qualify.
Right.
Because they may be too healthy.
Right.
That happens. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can't help the client if you're not talking about the life settlement market and educating them. And that's the most important thing today, is that there are many products out there. And for an advisor, they can only manage so many different products throughout their day-to-day. But this is a product they don't have to become an expert in. They just have to begin to educate their client.
So, would you agree with me that when they do the policy delivery and they go over that policy with the client, explain it again, how it works, would you agree that I think it's prudent on the advisor or agent's part to say, look, here's some things that are going to happen in the life of this policy. You're either going to take it to the distance, die, pay your beneficiary this amount. You're maybe going to think about, if it's a term product, converting it to a more permanent policy. or if it's already a permanent policy, you're going to surrender it, or you're going to let it lapse. Don't you think it's prudent on the advisor's part that they need to, at time of policy delivery, give them brochure, stick this in the policy? Because what's going to happen, client, and it's laughable, but it's true, they'll stick it in a dresser drawer, they'll put it in a shoebox, they'll put it somewhere, they'll forget about it. They know they got it because the premiums are being paid, but they never look at it again. But when they open up that policy, when they want to look at it, what am I going to do about this? There it is. There's some information about this life settlement. And they can call their advisor, their agent, and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm about ready to let this thing go. You mentioned something about selling it. I'd like to talk to you about that. Is that a prudent approach to this?
Absolutely, Joe. And you probably are aware of this statistic, but 85% or more of all the life insurance policies sold in this country are never presented for a claim. Think about that stat.
Did you say 85%?
85% of all the life insurance policies sold in this country are never presented for a claim. So from the standpoint of making your client aware that at some point you may not need this coverage anymore, and if you don't, you can sell it. I believe that's very prudent, because if not, that client may surrender that policy when they could have sold it and they missed out on the opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important. And for those that are watching or listening today, this is why we do Advisor TV, Advisor Radio, because it's not all about just products. It's not all just about some of the services we partner up with or offer. It's educating advisors on the things that they may not have thought about. People have heard about life settlements. Unfortunately, I don't think they've heard the stories like you've got, right? They might have heard some negatives about it, or maybe they're with a broker dealer that has heavy oversight on these types of programs. But I always believe that typically an agent, you never hear about these things until an agent sued, or a client, meaning an insured, says, hey, look, that agent didn't offer me all the coverages I should have been offered. Next thing he's in litigation, or maybe he's in with a complaint with the department. I don't know. There's a number of scenarios. I just think there's going to come a time that an advisor is going to be held accountable. Now, this is my opinion. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. It's my opinion that they didn't show their client all the options available. Because let's say that since the senior market seems to be the niche in this, let's say that senior who didn't tell their child who manages their business that they had the life contract, they just let it lapse because for some reason, let's just say the payments weren't made or anything, they didn't know about it, or they did it on purpose. When's it going to be, and we'll see it in the headlines one day, that you're going to have this dependent or a child of a senior say, why didn't you tell us about this?
Absolutely.
Now we can't get it. So I just think it's prudent on the agent and advisor's part. You never ever do the wrong thing for a client by showing them everything they're eligible for and qualify for.
Joe, you bring up an excellent point, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I believe that an advisor should at least let the client know what all their options are. What the client does from that point is entirely up to them. But letting them know, whether it be a life settlement, whether it be the different variations of a Medicare supplement, they need to be aware. And clients will value that. And clients will refer their friends and family to advisors that do that.
Mm-hmm. I see it all the time. An advisor, like in the Medicare markets, for example, they only show them the Medicare product. And if they're selling Medicare Advantage, they're only showing the Medicare Advantage product. And, most of those plans are no-cost plans. They never show them all the other products they're eligible for or qualified for that might fill the gap on any out-of-pocket exposure, or might help them in some other areas to cover what's not covered and so forth. It's just, to me, I think that you should always show your client everything they're eligible for and qualified for, and let them determine what's most important and least important to them. But at least as an advisor, I'm not talking about an agent who wanted to be a cheesy insurance agent? Not me. I wanted to be a professional. And the reality of it is, if they come to me, I'm going to show them everything they're eligible for and qualify for and do the best that I can to explain it, or have a partner or somebody strategically aligned with that can do that for the client. So when they do business with us, whoever us is, right, the advisor needs to have this available, I think. So to me, that was why it's super important for you to be here, for us to help the advisors understand this market, because there is some confusion, I think. They see the commercials, they might get an email or a mailer, but it's a relationship business, in my view. And I don't know what makes one different from the other. You've explained that well, what Life Settlement Advisors is and what makes you different. But in my view, what would you say is the next step for an agent or a financial advisor? What's the next step?
Well, I believe the next step for the advisor is to start talking about life settlements. They don't have to be an expert. And what I mean by talking is just simply letting the client know, did you know you can sell all or a part of your life insurance policy, even term insurance? Let the client know. Now, if the client has questions, all the advisor has to say is, we've got a strategic partner that's an expert in this. They can answer all your questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here to help you understand this is another option that you may not have been aware of, but it can be very beneficial to you if you qualify.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is, and I'm glad that you're here, what we're going to do is this. Here's what we're going to do for you, those that are watching and listening, those who work with us, and even those that don't. We're going to offer this, we're going to do a webinar, and we're going to get into the specifics of Life Settlement Advisors, how the life settlement works, case studies. We're going to do a webinar, and our next webinar will be that we're going to focus on this. We're going to do a webinar on Tuesday, May 22nd at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that we're going to focus specifically on Life Settlement Advisors. The next step you can do is call the agent advisor, right? They can call us.
Absolutely.
Call us or email us, and we'll send you more information. But I want to encourage everybody watching and listening today, I want you to go on the internet. I want you to visit Life Settlement Advisors on the web. Their website is www.lsa/llc.com. That's lsa-llc.com. And I want you to check out the website. Good stuff there, good information. I want to thank you, Leo LaGrotte, for being
Joe,
here.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, this is great. This is something that I've been excited about bringing out here. And we're going to share this on our social media. So if you're friends with us on Facebook, or if you're connected with us on LinkedIn, watch it, because we're going to put that out there. We're also going to be putting this out on Advisor TV and Advisor Radio. I want to thank you for visiting with us today. If you're looking to grow your insurance business, call us toll free at 877-886-4829, or you can visit us on the web at www.theagentsadvisor.com. As always, we appreciate you, and we look forward to talking to you soon, and make it a great day.